Hello, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my monologues. It seems to me that no matter how much one tries to get away and live an ordinary life and talk about ordinary things and to try and get back to what they were calling the old normal, you can't. We're still in this new normal, aren't we? And this new normal is intolerable. I'm making myself a cup of coffee here, or at least I'm trying to get this without squirting coffee out of my coffee cafetiere. We have a line in the sand, I think, in the world at the moment, and it's very difficult. I want to try and move away from some of the tropes that I've been talking about recently, to try and escape and have more philosophical and truthful conversations with you about other things. But unfortunately, it seems that you cannot move away, because we've got to address something that happened 5 years ago that was long in the planning and has been put on humanity. And there are so many aspects to this. And I'm going to be talking to a gentleman this afternoon on my interview, which will probably go out this afternoon. And if it doesn't go out this afternoon, it'll definitely go out tomorrow. I think it is going out tomorrow. I've just remembered that it needs to go out tomorrow. Anyway, as you know, 5 years ago, there was this scare across the world, and governments, mainstream media, and people all reacted in one lockstep way. But not everybody. There was enough critical thinkers, people who practice common sense, people who were not taken in with the deception of what happened 5 years ago. And then a year later, at the speed of science, there was a remedy for this event that happened 5 years ago. And you all know what I'm talking about. And we saw, again, the vast majority of the population of this planet line up and take a certain remedy that was sold to us for free as being the lifesaver. And of course, it's turned out that that has actually been the worst thing that anybody could do. And that there are many problems associated with it, not least that it has ramifications for the future of humanity in a way that we couldn't possibly have guessed at the time. But various clever people, far cleverer than anything I could do, have examined and seen what was in this remedy, or I might call it a poison, and has seen that there, not only has it got minute technical aspects to it, and I'm dancing around the subject, as you can tell, that certain infrastructure can, with radio technology, influence mind and body and various things. And this biological substance has been planned to be some sort of rather nasty weapon against us all. And that, of course, is really worrying. Now, there are ways to deal with this, and you may have noticed I smoke my pipe quite a bit, because I understand the benefits of what nicotine does to eradicate this, even if I didn't line up and have a needle put into my arm. Thanks very much. One of the ramifications that I want to talk about in here, which is a much more sort of humane and simpler thing, and this came through an email from one of my correspondents, and I haven't really addressed this. I think I addressed it once last year when I was at a talk, and young people came up to me And they said, you know, they're on the dating game. They're young people. They want to find a partner. This is a big problem now, because there are many people who want to find people who didn't take this remedy. And that if we forget about it, if we move away too much and don't talk about what great poisoning has happened to the population, young people will not necessarily know that potential partners may be infected with whatever it is. But it's not just that. It's those that are awake, who use common sense, who want to talk about certain things that have happened to humanity or is happening by all sorts of different things, by governments that do not seem to have our best interest at heart, by corporations, big brands, things that are in, let's say, medical products, pharmaceuticals. And many young people, it doesn't have to be young people, it could be old people. People are very much now fearful in some ways of talking to members of the opposite sex or the same sex or potential partners, let's say, about what's been going on in the world, because people are very prone to shut each other down. So it may sound like I'm talking a bit in code here. We have the online safety bill. We have cancellation culture. We have all sorts of strange stuff now influencing how you and I can communicate. And in order to get messages out, it's harder and harder. And so in the end, one has to develop a language that you and I understand, that the algorithm doesn't quite get yet, so that we can converse in a way that enables us to continue with free speech. So there are people, of course, who would like to have liaisons with other people, whether it's a fling or something more serious or a long-term relationship. And they're trying to find partners for life, to have an ordinary everyday life that you and I may have had experience of at some point, and maybe still do if we're lucky enough to find a partner for life who is also awake and open to new ideas and things. But there's a lot of people out there who you can't go on, and why would you, but you can't go on these dating apps and you see the face, let's say, of somebody which may have been enhanced by AI technology now, may not even be real. And you don't know whether that person is going to be awake or asleep or open to different ideas, or partially awake or partially open to sort of things. And this is a problem. Previous to 2020, you might meet somebody perhaps in a pub, perhaps in a nightclub, perhaps online, perhaps at a group, perhaps at work. And you would make an assessment about them based on the conversations they're having. And you may get together and you may have some fun times and enjoy life together, which is what I suppose you want to. This is why people get together, isn't it? To have a fun times with each other, whatever that means, however you interpret that. Now, for people, and I was specifying young people, it doesn't have to be young people, because it can be lots of people. People are feeling remote, even just to have friendships, not necessarily to find lovers or to be on the dating scene, but just to find friendships. Fortunately, we've seen over the last 5 years, from things like Stand in the Park to some of the events that I'm involved with where I've been asked to talk, some of the meetings, some of the marches, even some of the rallies, and even protests, even though I don't believe protests work because they're stuck in the old jurisdiction. People have got together who believe in a similar thing. And this does seem to be now the only way that like-minded people can find one another, and it can be very difficult if you are seeking a partner for your life to try and find somebody like-minded, because the population has been reduced. There will be many people, I imagine, youngsters, who are seeking a partner for life, who are worried that even if they find somebody who is a bit on their wavelength, if they have had certain medical interventions, what is their life expectancy? I mean, that's a horrible thing to think, isn't it? Because we know now that what was injected into people's bodies is a bit of a time bomb. But not only that, what was in that remedy is a technology that is being controlled outside that person's physical body by other means, by people who don't have humanity's best interest at heart. And if you meet somebody, you might want to talk about that. You might want to be able to say, look, I know you've taken a certain thing, but there are remedies to actually disrupt it or get rid of it. And you need to be able to have those open conversations about this. But if they are closed down, and continuingly to be closed down, if they watch mainstream media, for example, or are in fear all the time, it is very difficult to have open conversations with people. And if you can't have open conversations with people, it's very difficult then to connect to a point that you have a friendship that might go on to be a long friendship, meaningful, and particularly if you're looking for a partner for life, and if you're looking to procreate and bring new life into this world, you're going to be worried about what's in your blood. And so this is something that obviously is going to be thought about by all sorts of people, but young people in particular who are looking, who are aware, who are looking to find others and to repopulate this planet, or this realm, this world, whatever we want to call it these days, because we're going to need to try and find healthy people to put this country, well, not just this country, but the whole world back on its feet, and to be intelligent and not dumbed down enough to be able to challenge those that have caused this atrocity, to deal with those who are guilty of causing this atrocity or who have maintained this atrocity. And so we need healthy people to do that, and to, of course, rebuild a unique world. Now, I'm actually very positive about the future. It is the interim period that is the problem. And we know that there is a call now. People have spoken about it, I've spoken about it, other people have spoken about it, for a number of these prevention measures or control measures, digital IDs, for example, being one of them. We've been controlled by the monetary system since, well, the year dot, really, since money was invented. And that's been a mechanism to control us, to keep us working, to keep us downtrodden, to keep us on the hamster wheel, because we've needed to earn money. And it doesn't take a mega brain, and I'm not a mega brain by anything. I'm quite a simple man, really, to look at the world and go, hang on, if we're in the 21st century and we are supposedly a progressive bunch of people, and we've come up with such sophisticated mechanisms to make life better, why is it we're seeing a world that is imploding and going downhill rapidly? Why is it we somehow have got leaders who do not have our best interests at heart, that actually seem to be wanting to harm us? To rebuild this world, we're going to have to acknowledge again and again what happened in 2020 and the subsequent remedy that was given to us and those people who've been harmed by it. We're going to have to actively rebuild this world with as much common sense, critical thinking, and love if we're going to survive. It's a big problem. We're going to see, it seems to me, a very aggressive period in which we won't be allowed to address these issues. But we must, one way or another, and we will. I mean, that's why I say I'm very positive. In some respects, we've had to go through this, I believe, because we became lazy. We relied on others, authorities, to do things for us, to supply us with everything. And the things that they have been supplying us with, some of the technologies, some of the distractions, have moved our focus from what really matters. And part of my chats, I suppose, my monologues here, is to, again, as I want to try and move to the sort of philosophical truths and try and move away from the conspiratorial stuff, although it does seem that the conspiratorial stuff from yesterday is today's truths, and we do have to address them, is to find different ways, as it were, through philosophy and understanding what is actually important to you and I, and things that we're being distracted away. Questions such as, who are you? What are you? What are you really? I've mentioned things like legal fictions and the birth certificate name, the controlling jurisdictions and things in the past, and that will still be very much part of what I would like to discuss and try and crack open people's understanding of what's going on. I'm not saying I have all the answers by any means, but by not watching mainstream media, by not being swallowed up to a lot of the distraction, by not following every bit that's on YouTube that's there to scare you, you see clearer the light. And by focusing on what's really important, you know, family, friends, simple things, not the commercialism of everything, not the having to have material objects all the time, focusing perhaps a little inwards, understanding who you are and what you are, and what being with like-minded people really means, I think is a way to find the light and to shine for others to join you. I don't know whether any of this has made any sense, but some mornings I get up and I think I have a duty in some ways to talk about certain things. A lot of people I know don't want to look at these questions, find them difficult, awkward, perhaps irrelevant to their lives, and they may not be ready for it. But many of us will be marching on and talking about these important things and understanding who we are and what we are and why we're here, and we'll be finding the answers. And I want to continually keep a positive aspect on what's happening and not frighten people. But these things must continue to be talked about, because it's only by sharing ideas can we shake off the fear and create a better future. Thank you for listening.